The video that I will be analyzing in this film is video of the Ohio State circle drill. This is a football drill that they perform at the beginning of every practice. It is a very physically intense and demanding drill. Usually it starts off with two players being placed in the middle of a circle surrounded by all their teammates, coaches, and anyone who is at practice that day. They're lined up about 2 to 3 yards apart and get into whatever stance is comfortable for either player, and basically made to engage in physical combat until one person gets pushed back or knocked back too far, or eventually even knocked over. We'll be looking at some of the gestures displayed by not only the athletes inside the circle participating in the actual drill, but as well as the surrounding teammates and coaches to see what kind of gestures they're giving off and what messages they're trying to send non-verbally to their competitors and teammates through their non-verbal gestures. This clip focuses on a metaphoric gesture, and metaphoric gestures are seen all throughout this video as well, which metaphoric gestures are gestures that do not actually represent the gesture that is actually being made. They are meant to represent something else outside of the actual gesture. And in this we see a coach standing in between the two players, pretending to hold them back, acting like he's holding them back. However, it's pretty obvious to everyone that this is not actually the case. This is a gesture to get us to think about the idea of the intensity of the event, that these two players are so intense, so focused, so angry that they need to be held back, that if this coach was not there, that these two players would just maul each other, when obviously this isn't the case, and if these two players wanted to get after each other, they could. Now I'm going to focus on the reactions of the players after they have finished the drill, either winning or losing, and how they verbally or non-verbally express both pride and shame. And some of the examples that you see of pride are, you see a bobbing head nod, a constant head nod, upright shoulders, an upright body, a broad chest. Sometimes they will even tap their chest, pat their chest, or anything to symbolize dominance over another person. And this is found in studies also of apes during combat or mating situations to fend off other males. They'll stick up broad chest and pat their chest. Also in terms of shame, you'll see a head down, you'll see hands waved to the side, kind of pushed off, shoving things away. You'll see a slump. They will really not respond to anyone else with a head down. One interesting note, a study done at Emory University in Atlanta, Georgia, found that across cultures, displays of shame and pride are pretty much innate, and they're found to be the same across almost all cultures. And these have been even studied in cultures where they're not exposed to these shows of pride and shame or failure in Western culture, and they haven't seen these things, and yet they still exhibit the same responses. So it's thought that these gestures may somehow be innate and built into our bodies, that we just naturally give off these when we are expressing pride and or failure. Here we will be evaluating the pointing gestures or deictic gestures of head coach Urban Meyer. While pointing gestures are used throughout everyday life and we understand them so commonly, it is actually argued that they are a very complex understanding in a very situational environment, where not only do you have to recognize the gesture as a hand pointing, but you also have to understand the object being referred to and the context in which that object is being referred to. Another thing also that this can do by pointing, and especially done in this situation, this is a display of power and control by Urban Meyer. He is, with his pointing gestures, he's controlling the flow of the environment. He's controlling who comes into the circle. He's controlling who gets to speak and who gets their turn and who is doing what in the drill. Also, we see a gentleman pointing out the winners and losers. He's also pointing out who's winning and who's losing. He's not referring to a specific person. He's referring to the offense or defense, and this is something that also needs to be interpreted by the audience. In this clip, I'm going to discuss the importance of contextual and situational gestures and nonverbal communication, and as you can see, it's very important on what setting you're in and what is going on around you as for the nonverbals that you communicate, as in different situations and different contexts, these gestures body language, spacing, proxemics, all these things are going to have potentially different meanings within different contexts. I'll focus on first proxemics and then physical touch for this clip. And obviously you can see here with proxemics there is pretty much no regard for personal space, as the other coaches and teammates want to get as close as they possibly can to deliver their message. This is something that probably isn't acceptable in everyday conversation, but for this type of event it's perfectly okay. And then physical touch, obviously you see teammates slapping him, hitting him, going up. One of my favorite is the butt slap. All of these types of touch generally in everyday conversation, everyday life are going to be inappropriate or extremely uncomfortable to everyone else around them. However, in this situation, these are actually encouraged and a part of the process and a motivating factor. And if these things aren't being done, it's usually seen as odd, whereas in another context it would be seen the other way around. The next type of action that I'm going to talk about is the use of adapters by the players. And although adapters are not necessarily shown to have any direct communicative response or meaning to them, they're generally used by communicators to satisfy their bodily needs and calm nerves and reactions. And as you can see, this is very prevalent throughout this drill, as it is a physical contact drill and you're going into a combat situation where nerves and everything like that are potentially going to be high. And you can see players oftentimes adjusting face masks, touching themselves, strapping their chin straps up to make sure they're ready and release all of this tension that they've been building up before the performance.
To be alive.